Hi everyone, welcome back to Aspergers from the Inside. You're here with Paul. So have you ever sent a really long email? Maybe you do this quite regularly. Maybe you have some Aspie or autistic friends who send really long emails or long text messages and things like that. I know I've definitely been guilty of the email essay in the past. So today I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why we might have a tendency to do that. And also, if you find it difficult to communicate succinctly, especially in the written form, I have a couple of tips that I personally use to try to make sure that I accommodate my communication style in the way that's most likely to be effective, especially via email. So email is probably my least favorite communication method, and one of the reasons is because I feel like it's just really hard to say what I want to say in email. And if I do actually articulate everything that I want to say, then it's 4 paragraphs long when it really should have been 2 sentences, and it actually often backfires on me, and it leads to less understanding from the other person rather than this more detailed understanding that I was trying to communicate. So I was reflecting on this, and I think 2 reasons that a lot of us tend to send extra long emails is that, so one is that we want to be understood. One of the reasons that I explain myself in an email, I might include caveats, I might include things that I'm thinking, I might include, don't take this the wrong way, I don't mean this, I mean this, and sort of over-explaining myself in an email is because I want to be understood. I have a fear of being misunderstood. And especially via email, I have a fear that because I'm not good at this type of communication, I'm going to accidentally say something or or write something that I don't mean, and it's going to be misinterpreted, and I am going to suffer for it because that's the story that I understand from my life, the pattern of being misunderstood and having it come back to bite me. So ironically, because I'm trying to avoid that, I end up over-explaining, and that ironically has a greater chance of being misunderstood than if I was to just write the first thing that came to mind and try and be really succinct about that. The second reason that I think it's easy to write too much in an email is because I have a lot to say. I'm the kind of person that is very intellectual, very cognitive. I think about things a lot, all the time, in a huge degree of depth. And if I start trying to explain and share that with other people, very often the response I get is, "Whoa, I can't believe you spent 6 hours thinking about that. No, I don't want to hear about it. Good luck to you, but I did not give that a second thought." And it's hard for people to get into my frame of why I would spend so much time thinking and overthinking things, even in some cases. So by the time I'm trying to write a 1-sentence text message or a brief email, I've probably given hours and hours and hours of thought to all of the possibilities and all of the reasons and all of every possible combination that I can think of to what I wanted to say and to understanding this situation. So that's a lot that I've got within me that I would like to communicate. I would like to share that understanding with other people, but it's not possible to do that. But it also means that when I try to come up with, well, what is the most important part of what I'm trying to say, I don't just get the most important part. I also get, oh, and this, and it means this as well, and this, and oh, did you think about this other situation? And what about this possibility? Isn't that interesting? And that actually links to this other relatively unrelated thing over here. But if you think about it, they're actually, anyway, and then I'll go into my entire analysis in my brain of why all of these things are so crucially important and hyper connected to each other. And that loses the intention of the purpose of the communication. Maybe all I needed to say is, would you like to go camping next weekend? Full stop. Don't need to describe all of the possibilities that I've considered. I don't need to say, or if you don't want to go next weekend, maybe we can go the weekend after. I don't need to say, or if you don't want to go camping, maybe we can do something else instead. What if I start to share all of the possibilities that I've come up with, what I end up doing is talking to myself in a one-way monologue instead of communicating in a two-way dialogue with somebody else. So one tip that I've learned to keep emails short is to expect that it's part of an ongoing conversation, and I want to expect a reply, and then I will formulate the next thing that I want to say after I've received the reply. Because probably most of what I want to say is going to be redundant. What if I say, would you like to go camping next weekend? And the answer is yes. All of a sudden, all of the other possibilities that I had of, if you don't want to go next weekend, we can go the weekend after, or maybe we can take a whole week off next year instead, or maybe, all of that is completely redundant now because the answer to the first question was yes. So that's just one little example of a tip that I use to try and keep my communications as short and to the point as possible. Another tip that I use is to remember that people have a very, very, very short attention span. And for the most part, they're probably not going to read everything that I write. And if they do read it, they're probably going to skim it, and they're probably going to get just the essence anyway. So I'm the kind of person that could easily agonize over every single word and the exact expression that I'm going to use to get my point across as precisely as possible. And by reminding myself of the kind of annoying fact, I suppose, that most people just skim read text and get the essence of it and then just respond to it straight away, it helps me to care less and stress less about trying to communicate as clearly as possible by over-explaining. And instead, I can focus on communicating as clearly as possible by presenting the most important information first. This is really hard to do a lot of the time. Another strategy that I sometimes use is to just write everything that I would like to say and then cut it back later, or then leave that as a note for me and write a short email. And then if I get a question on the first email, I'll give more information. Or alternatively, you can just highlight the main point and put the main point up the top and say, P.S. here is some background if you would like the background. Because I also know that I want to give people the opportunity to understand. So I don't feel comfortable just not writing pages and pages of background, because what if they want to know? It's really important stuff. Anyway, I might leave it there. But I guess what I'm trying to talk about in this video is that there's a reason that we have a tendency of saying more, and it's because we want to feel understood and we have a lot to say. So if you receive an email and it's probably 2 or 3 pages longer than you expected, you've got a sense of where that person might be coming from and how to respond. And when I receive these kind of emails, I try to be as upfront as possible, as honest as possible about how much of it I've read. And I find people often respond quite well to that. I might say, I had a quick look. I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing, but I skimmed it and I thought you meant this. Did you mean this? Or responding to what I thought the main point was. So it's okay. Another thing that helped me is thinking that it's okay for me to sometimes say too much. I don't need to send the perfect, on-point, concise email all the time. That would be taking too much responsibility. So I'm going to do the best I can. I acknowledge that email communication is one of the hardest forms for me personally. I know that some others on the spectrum really love it, and good on you. I wish I could learn how to do that. Maybe you can leave some tips on email communication and what you found works best in the comments. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.